When the town clock struck 2 that afternoon, parents were still sipping coffee, and kids were chasing each other under the swings. By sunset, no one would let their child walk to the corner store alone again. One quiet afternoon had erased a generation's trust, and nothing would ever be the same. On a warm Saturday in late May, in the kind of American small town where everyone knows your name, 8-year-old Lily Marshall bikes to the community park after piano lessons. Her mother, Rachel, expects her back before 4. Lily's routine is ordinary: a detour to the playground, a few minutes on the slide, a call when she's ready to come home. The park is familiar. Toddlers, dog walkers, teens on scooters. Volunteers from the local youth league set up lemonade stands. It is safe. It is assumed safe. 3 hours later, Rachel calls the police. Lily never returns. Officers from the county precinct arrive within 20 minutes. What begins as a missing person report quickly escalates. A calm community spirals into a city of searchlights, flash drives, and whispered suspicion. Families gather at the park. Deputies canvass every neighbor. Volunteers form search parties that comb drainage ditches and wooded edges. At dusk, the sheriff's SUV parks under the blinking pavilion lights, and detectives begin asking questions no one wants to answer. Detective Mark Rivera takes the lead. He walks the playground with the methodical pace of someone trained to notice what others overlook. Scuffed paint on the swing set, a smear of dirt on Lily's usual bench, a single pink ribbon snagged on a fence post. "We treat every detail like evidence," he tells his team. Cameras are already being collected. Cell phone pings are mapped. The initial search is exhaustive. K-9 units, dive teams in the nearby pond, neighbors' doorbell cameras reviewed frame by frame. But the first holy shit moment comes not in the bushes or the water, but on a grainy clip from a private nanny cam. At 2:17 p.m., the camera facing the park's picnic table shows a figure, an adult male, approaching Lily as she sits coloring. He leans down, speaks softly. She laughs, stands, and follows him toward the restroom path. The two disappear from frame. The figure re-enters the camera's view alone at 2:20, glancing back once before walking away. It's not a stranger in a hoodie. It's someone the community recognizes. Tom Hayes, 38, a volunteer youth soccer coach who runs weekend clinics and bakes pies for the PTA. Neighbors later describe him as one of the good ones. Detectives now have a timeline. They have footage. They have a man who can explain why a child left the playground with him. But he tells a different story. In the interview room, the lights hum overhead. The metal table is cold. Tom sits with his fingers interlaced, palms exposed, a posture meant to convey openness. He maintains steady eye contact, voice measured. "I saw her crying," he says. "She tripped. I walked her to the restroom. She said her knee hurt. Then her mother came and took her." It's a simple, plausible account. Detective Rivera watches for tells. The way Tom's shoulders tighten when asked about his exact route, the half-second delay, before he answers where he was between 2:20 and 2:30. Subtle things, small gaps in a rehearsed story. Detectives cross-check Tom's account. His phone records place him near the park until 2:25, then show a 5-minute call to his sister at 2:30. A call he claims was to say he'd be late for dinner. Surveillance footage from a nearby deli shows a car matching Tom's departing the lot at 2:28. A volunteer at the youth league remembers seeing Tom a little after 2, but he doesn't remember Lily. Contradictions begin like hairline cracks in glass. In the days that follow, more evidence layers on. Forensic teams find a single blonde hair on the inside pocket of Tom's jacket when they execute a search warrant. a scalp hair with characteristics consistent with a child. A pair of scuffed sneakers in his garage has traces of playground mulch that match the composition of the park surface. Importantly, his truck's GPS reveals a detour down Old Mill Road, a stretch of unpaved shoulder lined with overgrown brush. At 2:33 p.m., a ping places his phone there for 11 minutes. The detour isn't in his story. Neighbors start to recall small things. Tom offering to take photos of kids at the soccer field, extra cookies at practice, a bag of gummy bears passed out after a game. Those moments are contextualized differently now. What seemed like generosity takes on a darker color. Psychologists later characterized this pattern as grooming behavior, building trust with families, creating opportunities with repeated proximity, normalizing attention from an adult. The public reacts the way small towns do, viscerally. A church organist cancels choir practice. Mothers form carpool chains. The PTA bans volunteers from being alone with children. The sheriff holds a press conference. We are pursuing every lead. We are asking the community to come forward with any information. But facts alone don't soothe fear. They replace an assumption that the people you invite into your life are safe, with a painful uncertainty that seeps into everyday choices. The second interrogation is different. Rivera approaches with a strategy common in complex abduction cases. Isolate pressure points without resorting to speculation. He lays out timelines, literal footage, and inconsistencies. Tom, he says, we have you on camera leaving the park alone at 2:28. We have your truck GPS on Old Mill Road at 2:33. You told us you were on the way to dinner. Explain that gap. Tom leans back. For the first time, his eyes no longer meet Rivera's. He coughs, swallows. I went for a smoke, he says. Needed air. It's stupid. The attempt to minimize is a common defense mechanism. Create a small, plausible reason to account for a gap. Rivera notes the micro-expression, the tightening around the mouth, the blink then slow breathe indicative of someone manufacturing answers. He keeps pressing, calmly, clinically. What about the hair? Rivera asks, sliding a small evidence bag across the table. Tom's hands tremble. I don't know, he whispers. Then a revelation. Lab analysis shows the hair is mitochondrial DNA, consistent with Lily's maternal line. It's not a definitive match in the way nuclear DNA is, but it's compelling corroboration when paired with the GPS, the CCTV, and witness statements. This is the point the case pivots from suspicious to prosecutable. Investigators execute a focused search of Old Mill Road the next morning. They find, half buried under leaves, a small blue backpack with Lily's initials stitched on the inside pocket. It is damp, its zipper partially open. No child's body is recovered. The search continues. The discovery triggers a second holy shit moment. The backpack ties Tom to Lily in a tangible, incriminating way he cannot explain away. In the third interview, the tone shifts. Tom's defenses fracture under evidence. He alternates between silence and agitated denial, then a new tactic: minimization and rationalization. It was never supposed to go that far, he says. I took her to calm her down. I didn't hurt her. I left her by the creek. She ran off. It's a narrative designed to preserve a modicum of innocence while admitting proximity. Behavioral experts note this as classic cognitive restructuring, a way an offender lowers moral barriers by reframing the act as less malevolent. But forensics answers more questions. Fibers on Tom's jacket match the blue lining of Lily's backpack. Mud found in the tread of his boots matches the bank of the creek where the backpack was found. Investigators reconstruct the timeline, a short interaction, a deliberate diversion, a route away from populated sightlines. This is not the spontaneous rescue of a distraught child. It is a series of choices. At arraignment, Tom sits stone-faced as charges are read. 1 count of kidnapping, several counts related to child endangerment, and later additional charges as evidence accumulates. The district attorney emphasizes the pattern of alleged grooming. This was not a random act. It was the exploitation of trust and access. Courtroom footage and pretrial interviews are heavy with psychological nuance. Defense counsel argues that the evidence is circumstantial, that there are alternative explanations for GPS, pings, and hair transfer. Prosecutors present a mosaic: timelines, CCTV frames, phone records, fiber analysis, Tom's changing statements. The jury is shown the nanny cam clip over and over. The innocuous approach, the bent conversation, the small figure leaving with an adult who is, up until that frame, part of the community's fabric. In a closed-door interview allowed by the judge, Detective Rivera describes Tom's demeanor on the stand. At times he appears detached, like he rehearsed being human. He smiles when he thinks deflection helps. But then he'll blink, and there's that split second of reality. The face of someone who knows their stories are collapsing. That behavioral observation becomes important testimony for expert witnesses who explain how grooming and manipulative behavior manifest. The case reaches another reveal during pre-trial motions, when an unexpected witness steps forward. A teenage former volunteer, Caleb Jenkins, who testifies that Tom taught him how to manipulate parents' perceptions, to be overly helpful, to position himself as indispensable. He said, "If they trust you, they won't notice," Caleb tells the court. That testimony reframes earlier, isolated acts as intentional strategy rather than innocent kindness. The prosecution's closing argument is clinical, surgical. They don't sensationalize. They walk the jury through each piece of evidence, one by one. "This isn't about motive," the prosecutor says. "This is about actions, about the choices made that day, and the pattern that let him be alone with children." They play the nanny cam, show the backpack, the GPS overlay, the hair analysis report. Each item is a tile in a mosaic that forms a clear picture. Tom chooses to speak only once, before sentencing. A short, rambling statement that alternates between apologies and deflection. His voice is flat. The performance doesn't reach the families. Lily's parents sit rows away, clasping each other's hands. They do not react when the sentence is pronounced. Life with the possibility of parole. It does not bring Lily back. It doesn't answer the central aching question. Why did this happen in a place that should have felt safe? The town responds in policy and ritual. The Youth League enacts strict oversight, 2 adult rules, background checks for every volunteer, mandatory training on boundaries, and limited one-on-one contact. Schools install more cameras. Parents who once allowed roaming play now carve routes into car seats. Children's independence, once taken for granted, is replaced with supervised freedom. Parenting styles shift across the county. More locks, fewer unsupervised walks, scheduled phone check-ins. Generations are taught caution where once they were given trust. Psychologists watched the fallout with a particular vocabulary: collective trauma, moral panic, risk compensation. For many parents, the fear didn't dissipate with a conviction. It transmitted like memory. Children grew up with an invisible perimeter. You can play here, but not there. You can trust certain adults, but only under watchful eyes. The balance between liberty and safety tilted. In the end, the case does close in a legal sense. There was an arrest, a trial, a conviction. But the emotional ledger is unsettled. Lily's backpack sits, preserved in evidence. Her mother volunteers now at the park, eyes scanning for anyone who lingers too long. Years later, teenagers in town ask each other if their parents remember the summer Lily disappeared, and get the same quiet answer: "We don't let you go out alone like that anymore." Ask yourself this: when a single afternoon erases a town's innocence, what does that do to the way children grow up? How do habits of suspicion shape a generation's trust, their freedom, their sense of what it means to be safe? The facts may be contained in a file, but the consequences live in every playground, every unlocked driveway, and in the way parents teach their children to come home on time. How do we balance protection with the risk of losing the openness that defines childhood?